She flew in from New York. She's tired. You've heard of jet lag, haven't you? Heard of it?" Helen sighed, finally meeting his gaze with a look of long-suffering endurance. "I married it. You've been in a state of jet lag for 20 years. You haven't moved at a speed higher than a shuffle since the Eisenhower administration." Stanley ignored the jab, though his jaw tightened slightly. His brother had entrusted him with Karen, and Stanley took the responsibility with a fervor that bordered on the medieval. He saw himself as the gatekeeper of her virtue, a lone sentry guarding a fortress against the encroaching tides of bell-bottoms and free love. "She's trying to adjust to living the life of a nun," Helen continued, her voice dripping with irony. "You never let her out of your sight. You're more like her jailer than her uncle. The girl wants to see the sights, Stanley, not just the inside of your war story scrapbook." "That's ridiculous," Stanley snapped, waving a hand dismissively. "She's having a good time. Didn't I take her to Disneyland? Didn't I take her to the museum? I even walked out to the end of the pier with her. I tell her every night about my experiences in the war." "You call that boring?" Helen drifted off for a second, her eyes glazing over as if seeking a mental escape hatch. "Oh, sorry, Stanley. I must have drifted off just thinking about the war stories. I think Karen has reached her quota for descriptions of sea rations and foxholes for the decade." The tension was broken by the sound of footsteps from upstairs. Apartment 201. The trio. Stanley squinted at the ceiling, his eyes following the vibrations of the floorboards. He still wasn't entirely sure about the arrangement up there. To girls Jana and Chrissy and a fellow named Jack Tripper. Usually, Stanley wouldn't stand for such communal living, but Jack was. Well, Jack was special. Stanley was convinced Jack posed no threat to the ladies, a misconception Jack carefully cultivated to keep his roof over his head. To Stanley, Jack was harmless, perhaps even one of the girls in spirit. "Why don't you let her meet the kids upstairs?" Helen suggested, adjusting her bangles. "You mean the Andrews sisters?" Stanley smirked, his voice laced with a condescending chuckle. "Yeah, Patty, Maxine, and Tinkerbell. I don't think Karen needs to be spending her time with that crowd." "Oh, Stanley, don't be cruel. She ought to be out having some fun with people her own age. She ought to be out dating. Dating. In this city." Stanley shuddered, the very thought causing a twitch in his cheek. "It's crawling with perverts and weirdos. I saw a guy yesterday with hair longer than yours, Helen. It's unnatural. I wasn't talking about your friends, Stanley," Helen countered smoothly, but a seed had been planted in Stanley's narrow mind. He thought of Jack Tripper. Jack was polite, he could cook, and most importantly, in Stanley's eyes, he was safe. If Karen went out with Jack, she'd be as secure as if she were in an armored truck. It would keep Helen quiet and keep Karen under the supervision of someone Stanley understood. Upstairs, the atmosphere was considerably more chaotic. The scent of burnt sugar and cheap flour filled the air. mingling with the earthy fragrance of the potted plants Johnny kept by the window. Jack Tripper was hunched over the kitchen counter, a look of intense concentration on his face that suggested he was performing brain surgery rather than decorating a dessert. He was a culinary student with a penchant for physical comedy and a heart of gold, though currently his heart was focused on a bargain bin cake. "Hey, I got Jeanette's birthday cake," Jack announced with a flourish as Chrissy Snow entered the room, her blonde hair bouncing. Chrissy, a secretary with a smile that could light up the boardwalk and a mind that occasionally took scenic detours through the clouds, looked at the cake. "Oh, good. Where's the birthday girl?" "In the kitchen, keeping an eye on dinner," Jack said, leaning over the counter and sneaking up behind Chrissy as she peered at the box. "Oh, you shouldn't sneak up like that," she squealed, jumping back as he tried to steal a quick kiss. "I was gonna give you a surprise birthday kiss," Jack pouted, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It's not my birthday till January," Chrissy protested, her blue eyes wide. "Why wait till the last minute? I like to be prepared," Jack retorted, his grin widening. The banter was interrupted by Jeanne, the sensible florist of the group, who stepped into the living area wiping her hands on an apron. She was the glue that held their eccentric family together, the one who remembered when the rent was due and where everyone had left their keys. "What are you doing?" "Jack bought a cake," Chrissy said, pointing at the box. Jeanne looked at the frosting, her eyebrows lifting. "It says, 'Happy Birthday, Jimmy.'" Jack didn't miss a beat, his confidence unshaken. "I got it at half price at the bakery. Some guy named Jimmy didn't pick it up. It's a perfectly good cake. Jeanne, I'll just scrape off the Emmy and it'll read Happy Birthday Jay. It's informal, chic, very LA." Jeanne rolled her eyes, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Only you, Jack, only you would buy a second-hand cake for a friend's birthday." The afternoon took a turn when a heavy knock at the door revealed Stanley Roper. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other as if the hallway carpet were made of hot coals. "Jack, could I see you for a minute?" Jack stepped out into the hallway, leaving the girls to wonder. "Sure, Mr. Roper. Everything okay with the plumbing? I promise I didn't flush anything weird." No. I was wondering, would you like to take a girl out tonight?" Jack blinked, his mind momentarily short-circuiting. "A girl? Me? I love girls. But who?" "My niece, Karen. She's visiting from the East. Mrs. Roper's been on my back about her having some fun. I thought you'd be a perfect escort. You know, since you're reliable, unthreatening." Jack hesitated. He had plans for Jeanette's birthday, a special dinner, the J cake, the works. But then Stanley pulled out a crumpled bill with the practiced stealth of a street magician. $50, and you can use my car. It's the big Chevy, plenty of legroom." $50 was a fortune to a broke culinary student living on ramen and hope. Jack's mind raced through the possibilities. He could buy Jana a real present, something better than a Jimmy cake.